I am going to walk through a couple of things that might potentially make a Raptor fan anxious.
You're going to throw these out and maybe V and I can each give it like out of 10?
That sounds good.
Yeah?
Let's do it. Okay, so my first point of potential anxiety is that James Harden comes back to life. He's scoring and he's carrying the non-Joel minutes. I'm not even so worried necessarily about the fact that he can get like 12, 15 assists. I'm worried about if he can get to games where he's at 30 points again. Where's is that, anxiety rankings? Is that rational? Is that realistic? Where am I at?
I think I'm going to give that like a 4 in terms of my worry about James Harden.
Okay.
And I'm happy to be wrong after Saturday.
A 4.
Yeah. I'm not that stressed. I think the combination of what we've seen from James Harden, and it's not just been like a few games against the Raptors, right? Like it's been a trend after his first 2 really great games in Philadelphia. Combination of what we've seen from him in terms of his playoff history, and also the fact that he's going up against this Toronto Raptors team, right? Like I think all of these factors are going against James Harden. So as much as we know James Harden's resume and all that, like until I see it, I'm gonna go into it with about a 4 on a worry anxiety scale. What about you, V?
I'm in the same place, because when you look at the body of work this season, the only reason for that anxiety to be high for your question is if you're looking at the James Harden that was playing at an MVP level in Houston.
Okay. So you're saying I'm worried about the name and the reputation more than the man itself.
Like, if we look back on the series once it's over, it's not out of the realm of possibility that James Harden is the 4th or 5th best player in the series.
Wow.
Bulletin board material for Glenn
4th
Rivers.
or 5th? So who's the...
Scotty?
Oh, my goodness.
Pascal?
Because you got Joel Embiid, you got Pascal Siakam.
I wouldn't be surprised,
Right? And then, honestly, Scotty Barnes could be that impactful, right?
Okay.
Fred VanVleet. And then there is a realm of possibility for that.
He might not even, okay.
So, for me, unless James Harden plays completely counter to what he's shown this season, I'm expecting him to be, at best, the 3rd best player in the series.
I like it. Don't worry about this. This is nice. Okay. Point of anxiety number 2. Tyrese Maxey goes to another level, and the Raptors can't contain him. You see it sometimes with young players. They really break out. For example, Pascal really broke out. He had the most improved player campaign, but then he went to the playoffs, and he really broke out. One of the reasons why Golden State couldn't beat the Raptors was because they couldn't guard Pascal Siakam. Some young players, when they're special, they can break out in a playoff setting. What if Tyrese is one of those guys?
Yeah, I'll go. I think this is fairly high because
really,
I think, I'll give this a 7. I think Tyrese Maxey has been really effective as the 3rd guy in Philly. And again, when you look at Philly's problems, it's probably because Harden hasn't been enough of the number 2 guy that they need.
Okay,
but in terms of Maxey's threat, a lot of that should also be credited to Harden. Like, the playmaking is still there. He's still opening up driving lanes for Maxey, and obviously he has the speed and the quickness to do it. So I think Maxey could absolutely have himself a series. And so I'd say a 7.
Yeah, I would say, I would say a 7 as well. I think as much as you can game plan around Joel Embiid and James Harden, and I think that's going to be the focus for the Raptors defense, like, Tyrese is going to be one of those X factor guys, right? Like you can't account for everybody. Some if you're throwing all these bodies at Joel, even if you're throwing bodies at James, like, I think it's going to be up to Maxey. I think Maxey does need to, like V mentioned, like, best 3-4 players in this series. Like, he probably has to outplay, Fred or Gary, in this matchup for them to win. Because we talked about Tobias Harris a lot. I think a lot of us, and probably Sixers fans too, aren't expecting too much from Tobias Harris. So, like, if you're saying that Joel Embiid is going to be the MVP candidate, and then you've got Harden, I think Maxey's the next guy that's going to be able to swing this series for the Sixers. Okay. So I think, like, it's interesting because, like, I guess through these first 2, we're more worried about Maxey than James Harden, which says a lot about James Harden.
Yeah. No, I mean, I you know what? I feel like we might be slightly underrating James a little bit if we're saying that Tyrese is more dangerous than him. I mean, look, I'm not saying that there's clearly a different player between year 1 Tyrese and year 2, right? I mean, he's really a most improved player candidate. I know like a lot of voters don't like to give it to a second-year player. He went from going 8 points a game last year to 17.5 this year, and his percentages are better.
Yeah.
But last year in the playoffs, like 7 games against Atlanta, he played 11 minutes per game, averaged 4 points per game, shot 36% from the field.
Damn, I thought he had better numbers than that.
I mean, look, there was a different thing at the time. Ben Simmons was obviously there.
Yeah.
You know, he was a rookie, the minutes, whatever.
Because he had a big game 6, I remember.
Yeah, that's
guess
fine. But one big game,
not.
I mean, 4.4 was 4.4, you know?
Yeah, I'm shocked by those numbers.
Yeah, I think from the Philly perspective, like I think they probably are a little bit anxious to see if Tyrese can sort of extend this play into the playoffs. But you know, there's a level of concern. Okay, how about number 3 then? Point of anxiety number 3. The Raptors can't generate enough offense, and the Sixers start to box out, and that means no extra possessions for the Raptors, and they have to grit and grind through every single game. As Nick Nurse said, it'll be a slugfest. You know, how valid is this point of anxiety?
I'm going to give it a 5.
A 5.
I honestly think,
Okay.
like, when we've gone through the Sixers roster, right? Like, we talked about how many one-way players they have. And, like, I just don't think they have the players on the roster for you to be able to say that, oh, like, suddenly the Raptors are going to lose their offensive rebounding advantage.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that,
And
by
in
the
the
way.
half court, I'm not that. Yes, I know this is going to be. There's going to be some ugly games in this series, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be some games where maybe 90 points is going to be good enough to win. Like, it might be that extreme.
Hey,
you
listen,
don't know.
92 points was enough to win.
Oh, that's right. Just 4 bounces was required.
Great
But
number.
yes, I just think like I don't think the Raptors are as bad in the half court as maybe like I don't know what the numbers are saying. Like
They're saying that
They're about
it's the
25th.
25th.
It's
But
the
like
Raptors and then like 5 teams that were tanking this year in terms of
I
half
don't know
court
why.
points per possession.
I'll have to see it. I don't know why I'm not that stressed. I'm just picturing Scotty finding advantages and being in the low post. And I think they got creators too. I think Gary, is primed to potentially have a couple big games in this series. And I think if OG is healthy too, like we've seen OG's resume in the playoffs. Like, I don't know. I'm not. And Pascal, like we've talked so much about Pascal and
Yeah.
how much he's improved. So if you really believe in all those things, I don't know. I put it at a 5.
In terms of the shooting, I think I'd probably go 6 or 7 because the same way I just said, worst case scenario, Harden is the 4th or 5th best player in the series.
Mm-hmm.
The same way, the worst case scenario for the Raptors is Fred VanVleet, who's been shooting 29% from 3 since the All-Star break, is still shooting 29% in the playoffs. Gary Trent Jr., at least for the games in Philly, can't find a way to be effective going up against Matisse Thybulle.
Matisse has really had his number this year.
Yeah. And then OG Anunoby, Nick Nurse was saying at practice today that he's still working his way back. So we have to see how effective he can be. And then you look at the bench, there's question marks, right? Chris Boucher, Precious Achiuwa, you're not looking at them as dependable three-point shooters. So they have to prove themselves. And so I think there are question marks there. And so I'll put that at a 6 or 7.
I think the other thing I'll add too is like they're gonna try to get in transition, clearly, like the Raptors.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I think about that Brooklyn game when Brooklyn went in, that Ben Simmons return game in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And they just ran them out of the gym. And
Literally,
Kevin Durant
yeah.
went to the podium after and said, yeah, we know we can run on this team.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason why my concern might be a little lower, because I just don't think that they're going to trap themselves into this half-court game.
It is interesting looking at the Sixers roster. The Raptors do have a definitive advantage in terms of athleticism. Like, I think that's where, like, I was listening to Tyrese, speak yesterday at Raptors or Sixers practice, and he was talking about, look, all we got to do is control the glass, make sure we box out, and keep them out of transition, and then we're good. And I'm thinking about, I was like, yeah, generally speaking, that is how you would approach the Raptors, right? You take away the possession battles, you take away the transition, you probably will beat this team just because their half-court offense is just, so-so. But can you do that? Like, it doesn't change anything in the series just because it's more of a playoff game and it's more intense. That doesn't mean these advantages melt away. It doesn't mean that suddenly Georges Niang is the same level athletic as Chris Boucher.
Yeah, you have to take those
Or me.
advantages away. They no, but like,
Me
come
and
on,
him got the same athleticism.
it
bro.
ain't about you. You've said this. It ain't about you. No, but like, Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point
Yeah.
because people love to just use the fact that, hey, it's going to be a playoff environment.
So
Suddenly-
therefore, you
yeah.
can't get on the glass. You can't get on transition.
The other team has to
I don't know, man.
have the able bodies on the roster to take away those advantages.
Yep.
The coaches on the other end of the roster on the other team have to be able to make those adjustments and take those advantages away. And
Yep.
those are the biggest questions about the Sixers, right? Do they have the roster and do they have the coaching staff to actually take away the advantages that the Raptors have?
Yeah.
I think that's really like the crux of this series.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
I think on some level, you know, the Raptors aren't used to being in this position where it's like you are the bad matchup for the other team.
Oh, I love it.
We're
It's so good.
We're so
I love
used
it.
to being on the other side of it. It was
Oh,
like,
people
this
people used to look at us like food.
Yeah,
we
exactly,
were food.
right?
Yeah.
Even times when we were the higher seed, like it didn't matter. And now this series is genuinely one where you look at the matchups and the Raptors have the advantages, and so it's a little hard to take in, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's genuinely nice. It was a nice change of pace. Okay, point of anxiety number 4. Scotty Barnes is a rookie, and he's being asked to start in the playoffs and guard Joel Embiid and James Harden at times. What if he melts? He is a rookie, after all. He might be rookie of the year, which, by the way, a lot of votes are going his way.
Howard Beck as well. Shout out to Howard Beck.
Really?
Friend of the program.
3
yeah.
out of 4 Oh, man, we did some good campaigning. We did some good campaigning. Oh, man.
Y'all did
It's not about you.
It's not about us. No, it's about democracy.
V. Scotty Barnes, rookie, first time NBA playoffs. Anxiety ranking.
I'm gonna go back to a 2 or 3. I think he's gonna be pretty special. He's been special all season, and you look at the way he leveled up since the All-Star break. He's getting better and better, and I think
Okay.
someone I think back to is almost, you know, that rookie season for Dwayne Wade, where he had a very good rookie season,
Yep.
and then the playoffs came, and it was like, whoa.
It's a real.
It's his team now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And I think Scotty Barnes could do something like that this postseason.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I'm gonna put this at like a 5. I think
Okay.
I think we might see, because I think about the regular season, we think about all the great things that Scotty's done, right? Like immediately comes to my mind like those games against Brooklyn when like there wasn't a single play called for him, right? And I think he set a career high, or even his performance in that road win against Phoenix, what he did in crunch time.
3 steals.
But then I think about like the way he guarded Luka Doncic in that loss in Dallas. You
Would
know,
he put a hand down?
Yeah, I think about when, you played me some tape earlier this week before the show.
Yeah.
Just about the Sixers-Raptors matchups in the regular season where we've seen him not being able to make the right rotations, on defense. And we know that the Raptors defense is only effective if all 5 guys are on a string, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And, like, is there going to be a game maybe in the series where, they just leave him open and he takes like 11 threes and he makes
We saw
like
that
2?
in the Kyle Lowry return game.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, or are you going to see a game where maybe he's not as focused on defense and these things are going to get magnified, right?